Recently, Congressman Rodney Davis of the 13th Congressional District in Central Illinois stopped by a sign company in Springfield on National Manufacturing Day. His district is one targeted by Democrats as they try to regain control of the U.S. House of Representatives. We hear Congressman Davis comment on training workers, and then he takes questions from reporters on a variety of economic issues.
You know, if you were graduating high school, if you're graduating college, there's no better economy to be in my lifetime, and I'm older than you. I'm 48. We've never had this low of unemployment in my lifetime. It was a month before I was born. It was December of 1969. We had 3.7%. So the opportunities for your generation are endless. But we've got to make sure that we have the access to the skills building and the training programs to be able to get you from that training and skills building right into the floor at places or into the offices at places like ACE.
Where we are, I know we're at ACE Sign Company.
You know, this is National Manufacturing Day, and always been great to be able to come here and visit the folks at ACE Sign Company. Dennis and the team have a great business here that's growing in Springfield. This is our third stop of the day. We started in Decatur at Mueller Company, got to see some of the great products that they manufacture and what they're doing to grow jobs in our community. Then went up to Champaign to Latania, and Latania makes high school and sporting products. So basketball goals and nets and the entire backboard systems, pole vaulting pits, pole vaults. Got to hold a javelin, and I don't know if you know, but we were told today that I think two of the top three Olympic medalists in javelin at the last Olympics got javelins made in Champaign, Illinois. So now we're here today, and it's really to highlight what manufacturing means to our economy. And we are at historic economic growth. We are at 3.7% unemployment that was announced today. That hasn't happened since before I was born in 1970. Last time we had 3.7% unemployment.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Last time we had 3.7% unemployment was December of 1969, a month before I was born. These are historic times. These are historic economic growth periods. And what we want to talk about is how do you then get the workforce into all the new jobs and get trained and have their have skills so they can immediately transition into places like ACE Sign today.
Very good.
And this, I guess you would say, is validation of the tax cuts that were passed last December and maybe some of the cutting in regulations?
I certainly believe so. I'm glad to be able to work with this administration to pass what we consider pro-economic growth policies. The numbers are the facts, and it's a fact that the last administration, coming out of a terrible recession, still in the economic recovery period, did not crack 3% economic growth. And many who were opposed to our tax bill, opposed to putting more money in the pockets of middle-class families right here in Central Illinois, they laughed when we said we could get to 3% economic growth on a quarterly basis. We hit over 4%.
Right, when you go out on the campaign trail and talk to the voters, what are the issues that you're hearing from them that they're most focused on?
Well, a lot of time's been spent talking with manufacturers and job providers, companies looking for employees, looking how do they get that next employee that's going to make a career out of coming to work at their facility. That's a great place to be when just a few years ago, places like Macon County, Decatur, had double-digit unemployment. Remember, if Caterpillar would have had a job open in those days, you would have had a line out the door. Now Caterpillar has invested in going from 900 jobs in Decatur to now over 2,000. And their biggest problem is getting a trained workforce to be able to work in one of the best paying, best benefits manufacturing facilities in the Midwest. So that's a good problem to have because of economic growth, because now I think it's the time that we invest in getting people trained and get them into the workforce.
Let me go back to the employment numbers, as you say, came out today, 3.7%. We have more jobs open than there are people to fill the jobs. The problem is that we often don't have people who are trained to fill the jobs.
Right.
Is there any conversation going on, or have you any policy proposals that would address that issue relative to in other states in years past, they had some kind of a grant so that a business like a sign company could hire someone who wasn't trained, but they could underwrite their 6 months or so a training wage to get these people trained. Is there anything along the lines to address this skill shortage more than a labor shortage?
Well, the skill shortage is helpful in helping to cause the labor shortage, Terry. And as a matter of fact, what we've been trying to do within the Farm Bill, remember the Farm Bill is about 20% ag policy and about 80% food and nutrition policy. It's our food stamp program. And the facts are we've got 9 million more people in this country today that are on food stamps than when unemployment was at 9.5%. Unemployment now is at 3.7%. We ought to be able to invest in educating those individuals who are stuck in the cycle of poverty to get them the skills they need to come work at places like Ace Sign. That's the opportunity that we have in a historic growing economy with low unemployment. I'm pushing to make sure that we have an investment of over $1 billion a year in the SNAP education and training program to pair up individuals who are on food stamps with skills building opportunities for good paying jobs that we know are available right here in our communities, even in the rural areas of our communities.
Is it going to be after the election that the Farm Bill gets passed now?
Well, I certainly am one of those optimistic ones that the four tops are likely meeting this week, and I hope they can come up with a plan. I'm willing to go back to D.C. and pass a good compromise signed conference and sign a conference report that would be a good compromise that they could come up with, even on Election Day.
Raquel's co-worker is in an ad that Betsy's put out now saying it's called Mark. It's called Caught, I think. It says that Paul Ryan's ad on your behalf is a bunch of lies, including that she wants a health care plan that would cost $32 trillion and make us double the income tax. She says she's not for universal health care. She's for a pilot program, as Tim Kaine has proposed. Do you take credit for the ad or agree with the ad that is being done on your behalf by the super PAC of Paul Ryan? And do you consider it accurate when she says it's wildly inaccurate and actually ask TV stations to take it down?
Well, of course, usually when people in politics ask for an ad to be taken down, they don't like it. I don't have any control over that. Just like my opponent doesn't have any control over the special interest dollars that are being spent on her behalf at a much higher rate than the Congressional Leadership Fund being spent on my behalf. But the clear fact is, my opponent once again has been loose with the facts and is not telling the truth. I've said time and time again that I have voted to protect and put layers upon layers of pre-existing condition coverage into bills that I've voted for. That's what's frustrating about politics. My wife is a cancer survivor of 19 years. My wife has clearly said, even in a commercial that's been run for the last few weeks, that I am not going to support something that does not have protections for pre-existing condition coverage. The problem we have with the healthcare debate right now is it's people like my opponent that want to talk about how they have an idea maybe during the primary that they're okay with, but then try to change that as you move into the general election cycle. It's a pattern of dishonesty that even your newspaper, Bernie, your newspaper, the State Journal-Register, called out on her behalf when she lied about me in the past. It's typical in politics, it's frustrating in politics, and thankfully for all of us, we got about 3.5 weeks left until we win again, and then we'll start over the next time.
Are you saying she's for universal health care when she says she's not?
I believe, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but if you go back to some of the comments that she made during the primary, that was something that was obviously, a little more open to my opponent then than what it is now, according to her.
Do you think that the ad is misleading in any way?
I think her ad is tremendously misleading. Absolutely, I do.
What about
Anybody
the one
that
that's on your behalf, though?
No, I don't. I don't think it's misleading. And also, I think it's very misleading, some of the ads that are being run by special interest dollars that my opponent said she would not take and not accept and wants to get rid of. They're very misleading ads about me, very negative ads, very much ads that don't tell the truth. And her ad right now does not tell the truth.
And, that's the one that says you voted 11 times to end Obamacare, and I know you've said some of those were budget bills and some of those are resolutions, but Was there not a point where you voted for something to end Obamacare without a replacement right at that time?
Every time that I've ever cast a vote to repeal, replace, defund, fix Obamacare, it's been with a replacement. And the sheer fact of the matter is, when we had a chance to put together a common sense solution that would have lowered costs for so many people with pre-existing conditions, but are part of the 31 million people that can't afford to use their health coverage in this country, that's the vote I've cast, and that's the message I've sent. And to accuse me otherwise is offensive to me, and it's really offensive to my wife, who's a cancer survivor.
And who are you saying is spending more than...
The Democrat Campaign Congressional Committee, Emily's List, groups that are spending on behalf of my opponent to attack me with ads that are not fair and are not accurate.
How much time do we have here? Because I know you guys probably already rehashed the purpose of today. I know you did a 3-city tour, emphasizing need to, protect and grow our manufacturing jobs. I guess what are maybe some of the key differences between yourself and Londrigan? I know you guys went to the editorial meeting, talked about your positions on job growth. She seems to think that your tax reform isn't really helping the middle class people. I guess how do you respond to that, and could you kind of touch on the importance of today?
Well, I don't know what she said, but from what you're explaining to me, it seems like she agrees with Nancy Pelosi that a $2,000 average tax cut for families in central Illinois that I represent, she seems to say that it's crumbs, like Nancy Pelosi did. $2,000 to the people I represent in central Illinois may be crumbs to my opponent and to Nancy Pelosi, but they're certainly not crumbs to the families that live here, and $2,000 can do a lot in a family budget. And what we're seeing is historic economic growth. We chose economic growth by investing in a better, a more reliable, and a more efficient tax code that also allows companies like A-Sign to be able to invest in people and also expand their operations. That's what tax reform does. And if we don't keep the majority in Washington, Nancy Pelosi has already said, if Democrats win the majority and she is elected Speaker, that she wants to raise taxes on the same families that are struggling right now to be able to pay for the skills that maybe somebody in that family needs to be able to take a job that's available in this historic economic times and historic low unemployment.
Is she threatening, I guess, to raise taxes to protect some of those social services that I guess...
I don't know what social services at the federal level you're saying are being cut. As a matter of fact, the social...
Some of the rhetoric that I'm hearing from the left is that Social Security and...
that's not true at all. The sheer fact is Social Security, Medicare, long before tax reform, was well on its way to insolvency. And we've got to be able to make sure that these programs, like I've supported my entire career, these programs have to live up to the promises that were made to people who are on them, people who are about ready to get on them, but we also have to make sure that those good programs are there for the next generations and our children's generation and grandchildren's generations. And right now, Betsy Londrigan has not offered a plan to try and make sure that they're going to remain.
So there's no initiatives coming from Congress to try to cut back or reform the way we're issuing out Social Security?
No, we're trying to make sure that we do everything we can to put those programs in a pathway, work with the administration to ensure that every single benefit that's been promised is not just given to this generation who's using them or the ones who are about to. It's for all future generations. That should be the goal, and it should be bipartisan. And it shouldn't be just an attack line in an ad that's not true.
The state Republican Party has been putting out a lot of brochures or flyers on your behalf. Do you coordinate with that because it has all of your message and pictures and campaign? Do they?
I have not. I have not. Okay, I've talked to my team.
Okay. They keep saying she's in addition to a liar, a lobbyist. Are you familiar with what that was talking about?
I believe my opponent was a registered lobbyist at one time.
Okay, 1 year for the library, is that disqualifying in some way? Is that a bad thing?
Is it not true?
No, she was in 2013.
So
yeah,
what you're
fine.
saying is
that's fine.
She's a lobbyist? Is that what you said?
She was, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll take your word for it, Marty.
That's fine.
Rodney, do you see any, as far as the energy of the vote, there's a debate about whether this Kavanaugh event is going to make the Republicans more enthusiastic or turn out more opposition vis-a-vis the Democratic Party. When you're out on the campaign, Are you noticing any change one way or the other in the mood of the electorate?
Well, I think Republicans are very excited to vote. I see it every time I'm out in my district, no matter where we're at. Both sides are energized right now. I think you've seen that in the special elections that have taken place for Congress, and I think you'll see it as this election cycle moves forward, and that's great. I want everyone to participate in the political process. I would love to have the excitement on every election, because I think that's what gets people engaged in actually doing their civic duty. I know my twin boys who are 18 went and registered to vote for the first time, and they were really excited to do that this week, and I certainly hope I can get them to vote for me come election day.
Okay, guys, we need to wrap this up.
Okay, I know you kind of were touching on the fact that you came here and they've been benefiting from the tax cuts. I guess, could you expand? I don't know. I guess I could ask them the same question on have they, expanded jobs? Have they increased wages here?
Well, you can talk to them specifically about ACE signs, but you look at nationwide. Wages are rising, and you see historic economic growth, historic low unemployment, to where employers that I serve are calling me to say, what can we do to get people into the workforce? And how do we get them the skills that they need to be able to come and work in this new manufacturing environment? And that's one of the reasons we're here today, is to listen to our employers, listen to the people who make our local economies tick, like Ace Sign Company today, Latanya up in Champaign where we visited earlier, or even Mueller Company in Decatur where we started our day. It's listening to the employers, the job providers, as to what they need to get people.
Feedback, I guess,
Their feedback has been, we need to help with skills building. We need to help with training. We need to help with investing in the people who are stuck in the cycle of poverty, to give them that opportunity and the faith to know that they're going to be able to have a good paying job when they get through a training program, or what it means to be able to get here and be trained on the job.
And are those policies that you plan to push forward if reelected, or is that something that you've already been working on?
Already pushing forward now, and will continue to push as long as I serve in Congress, just like we've been pushing since I got to Congress. One of the big issues that we're trying to address right now is the Farm Bill. 80% of the Farm Bill is actually our food and nutrition program, Raquel, and it includes our food stamp program. We've got 9 million more people in this country today that are on food stamps than when unemployment was at 9.5%, and we're at 3.7% right now. So what we have to do, Republicans and Democrats alike have told me my entire career, that we've got to invest in people to help get them out of poverty. We're doing that in the Farm Bill by investing over $1 billion a year in training and skills building, to where somebody could go get a commercial driver's license in about 4 weeks at one of our community colleges. We ought to be able to have them go and have it paid for, and while they're in school, be able to pair them up with jobs we know are available. Because jobs driving a truck in my hometown of Taylorville at McLean Trucking will pay $70,000 a year on day one, and they can't fill those jobs. It's a truck driving job delivering fast food to restaurants all throughout this area, and you're home almost every night. So we need a program that's going to be flexible enough to get families to go get trained, get that certification, and go take jobs like that that are going to change their lives. Imagine being at the grocery store, being on food stamps, wondering what you can and cannot buy with those benefits. And in about 6 weeks after you've been trained to go take this job, in about 6 weeks you're making $70,000 a year. That's a life-changing event that government programs today hinder rather than help, which is why we're trying to make these changes.